When an empath reaches their breaking point with an avoidant, they transform into something far more psychologically devastating than any avoidant's emotional cruelty could ever be. The person who once absorbed all your dysfunction, made excuses for your behavior, and loved you through your worst moments becomes a force of calculated emotional precision that can dismantle your entire psychological framework with surgical accuracy. A fed-up empath is dangerous because they've studied you completely while you are taking their love for granted. They know exactly where all your wounds are. Unlike avoidants who strike randomly with emotional unavailability, fed-up empaths have intimate knowledge of every psychological vulnerability, insecurity, and trigger point you've revealed during your relationship. They've been your emotional safe space, which means they know exactly where you're most fragile and defenseless. This knowledge was gathered through genuine care and concern when they were trying to understand and heal you. Now that they're fed up, this intimate psychological map becomes a weapon of precision that no stranger could ever possess. They know your childhood wounds, your deepest fears, and your core shame. An avoidance cruelty is broad and unfocused, emotional withdrawal and general unavailability. A fed-up empath's retaliation is laser-focused on your exact psychological pressure points, making their attacks exponentially more damaging than anything you could inflict on them. They've documented every pattern and inconsistency. Empaths are natural observers who've been cataloging your contradictions, lies, and behavioral patterns throughout your relationship. When they reach their limit, they can present you with a comprehensive case study of your dysfunction that's impossible to deny or deflect. This documentation includes every time you said one thing and did another, every promise you broke, every way you manipulated situations to your advantage, and every instance where you chose your comfort over their well-being. They have receipts for everything. Unlike your scattered emotional attacks, their confrontation is organized, factual, and backed by specific evidence that makes your typical gaslighting and deflection tactics completely ineffective. They can prove your patterns with detailed examples that leave no room for denial. They can mirror your energy perfectly. Fed-up empaths have the unique ability to reflect your exact energy back to you, giving you a taste of your own emotional medicine with perfect accuracy. They can become exactly as emotionally unavailable, dismissive, and cruel as you've been, but with the added devastation of doing it intentionally. This mirroring is particularly effective because they understand why your behaviors hurt and can replicate that pain deliberately. When they withdraw, it's strategic. When they're cold, it's calculated. When they dismiss you, it's to show you exactly how your patterns feel from the receiving end. The difference is that their emotional withdrawal isn't defensive. It's offensive. They're not protecting themselves. They're educating you about the consequences of your behavior through direct experience. They can cut off their emotional supply completely. The most dangerous thing a fed-up empath can do is completely shut off the emotional validation, understanding, and care that avoidants secretly depend on. They can go from being your emotional regulation system to providing absolutely nothing, creating withdrawal symptoms in you that are devastating. This supply cutoff is different from avoidant withdrawal because it's permanent and strategic rather than temporary and defensive. They're not pulling back because they're scared. They're cutting you off because they've decided you don't deserve their emotional energy anymore. Without their empathy, patience, and emotional labor, avoidants discover how much they actually depended on these qualities for their psychological stability. The absence of unconditional acceptance reveals how conditional their own love has always been. They can expose your patterns to others. Fed-up empaths possess detailed understanding of your psychological mechanisms and can articulate your dysfunctional patterns to mutual friends, family, or future partners with devastating accuracy. They can warn others about your behavior in ways that are both compassionate and completely damaging to your reputation. This exposure is particularly dangerous because it comes from someone who genuinely tried to help you, making their warnings credible rather than vindictive. When an empath tells people about your patterns, others believe them because empaths aren't known for malicious gossip. They can describe your behavior patterns so clearly that others can recognize and defend against your manipulation tactics, effectively vaccinating your social circle against your psychological games. They become emotionally unreachable. When empaths truly give up on an avoidant, they become completely emotionally unreachable in ways that surpass anything an avoidant could achieve. Their emotional unavailability is total, final, and immune to manipulation because it's based on exhaustion rather than fear. This unreachability is devastating to avoidants because it removes their ability to manipulate through guilt, intermittent reinforcement, or emotional games. Fed up empaths become emotionally bulletproof in ways that make all avoidant tactics powerless. Unlike avoidant emotional distance, which always carries hope for reconnection, empath distance carries finality that feels completely insurmountable. They're not playing hard to get. They're genuinely done. They transform pain into focused power. While avoidants use pain to retreat and protect themselves, fed-up empaths transform their pain into focused power that drives strategic action. Their hurt becomes fuel for systematic change rather than motivation for withdrawal. This transformation makes them dangerous because they channel their emotional wounds into productive force that serves their long-term well-being rather than defensive patterns that maintain dysfunction. A fed-up empath is more dangerous than an avoidant because they combine intimate knowledge of your psychology with strategic emotional intelligence and the willingness to use both against you with surgical precision. They're not just rejecting you, they're dismantling the entire psychological framework that allowed you to function in relationships through manipulation rather than genuine connection.